Sonali Kolhatkar is with us, host of Uprising on KPFK Pacifica's Morning Drive program, and Uprising with Sonali on Free Speech TV. Uprisingradio.org is the website. And Sonali, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. You are actually, there's an announcement here. The Henry A. Wallace National Security Forum, which you are going to moderate, is a project of Robert Greenwald's Brave New Films, and the NSA surveillance shorts will be airing on Free Speech TV this Saturday and Sunday, tomorrow and the day after, at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Check your local listings for details. Tell us about this.
Yeah, this is an amazing set of interviews that I was so honored to be able to do in collaboration with Brave New Films. And it features interviews with Anand Gopal, an amazing journalist who's done great work in Afghanistan, about how our foreign policy looks like from the perspective of people that we're conquering. Roxanne Dunbar-Ortiz and her work on in the history of the United States through its impact on indigenous people. I spoke with William Bloom about the CIA, James Banford about the NSA and the rise of the national security state. We had a conversation with Stephen Kinzer about the history of U.S. regime changes. Heidi Boghossian, who has been with the National Lawyers Guild about the national security state and spying. Noam Chomsky, perhaps the most high-profile interview that we did. And of course, Glenn Greenwald, who was who's become a household name in terms of the revelations that Edward Snowden did. Also Andrew Bacevich and John Turman and Linda Bilmes. So 10 interviews, these interviews that explore in depth the broad strokes of what we mean when we say national security and what the foreign policy of the United States is versus the impact that it actually has. How all of that fits in with the spying and the surveillance state here in the United States. And I'm very excited about the series of interviews that has been, of course, beautifully edited in the style of Brave New Films. Anybody who's seen their documentaries knows that they do very polished work. And I hope that it'll be a very important tool in the hands of people who question every time we drop another drone strike, every time a lawmaker justifies the spying in the name of national security. And so hopefully people will tune in.
Yeah. How is our foreign policy different from our stated foreign policy goals, different from our actual foreign policy outcomes?
I think one of the most basic things is when we hear President Obama, when we hear those justifying, for example, the drone program that takes out so-called high-value targets. The theory is that if we were to just drop bombs and extrajudicially kill the leaders of Al-Qaeda and these days the leaders of ISIS, that's going to disappear our problem of terrorism. On the ground, what it does is simply anger more people. There's always new recruits willing to come and take the place of those we've killed. And in the place of those we've killed emerge stronger leaders. And so we've had the opposite impact of the stated goal of reducing terrorism. We've actually increased terrorism. That's just one example.
Right. And I mean, we should have seen this in our own history. In a way, we're doing what the British did to us in 1776. I mean, it's just the idea. Well, in any case, talk about how our uncritical media coverage feeds all this.
Of course. And see, whenever we have media coverage of, again, just staying on the drone strikes for a bit, we need that historical background that we don't get. The U.S. just dropped a bomb in Yemen last month, and it was confirmed this week that it killed the number one person in Yemen of Al-Qaeda. And already, there's someone else ready to take their place. And what media coverage of that one instance didn't do was it didn't show or link the dots between how the weakening of Al-Qaeda by the U.S. has actually led to the rise of ISIS, right? ISIS, who sees Al-Qaeda as not being able to stand up to the U.S., who's angered by the U.S.'s drone strikes, and who thinks they can do a better job than Al-Qaeda. So the media doesn't connect those dots. And if Americans were to be able to see that fuller picture, we would much more strongly question as a society this very mistaken foreign policy.
So is there a call to action for this?
Well, of course, the call to action is always, in addition to understanding better with how these things work, understanding that historical context, we have to question our elected representatives. We have to demand. I mean, we just had a whole debate, not a whole debate, I should say, maybe half a debate on the USA Patriot Act, which was parts of which was replaced by the USA Freedom Act. But our lawmakers did not ask the basic question of why should we be spying on Americans in the first place, wholesale spying, not talking about police work. Right. And they felt that they did their due diligence, passed the USA Freedom Act, and moved on instead of undoing the entire USA Patriot Act. Those are the kinds of things we need to question constantly and need to overturn. I mean, we're in a very dangerous era today. Our foreign policy, hand in hand with the surveillance state, are creating an atmosphere where people are scared to speak out, or that's the idea. Of course, if the defenders of spying say, well, if you have nothing to hide, then you shouldn't worry. But that's not the point. The point is that people end up censoring themselves, worried about being caught in the NSA dragnet, and that weakens our democracy.
Yeah, absolutely, and defies at least the principles upon which our country was founded. The Fourth Amendment, clearly, and all that. It feels
like we're living in Orwell's 1984 again, and that's just terrible. It's frightening, and we have to overturn it. And that's what I hope this series of interviews will inspire people to begin looking at as we link the dots, connect them, and then hopefully take action. So I hope everybody tunes in Saturday and Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, to enjoy this wonderful series of interviews that Brave New Films has put together.
Right. This is the Henry A. Wallace National Security Forum, moderated by Sonali, as a project of Robert Greenwald's Brave New Films. The NSA surveillance shorts will be airing on Free Speech TV Saturday and Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And Sonali, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Tom. I really enjoy your program.
Thank you. Back at you. We'll be back.